So, all right.
I think I
Um,
got it. I think I'm off mute now.
okay, well, that's a good thing because here we are. So, I'm going to take this off share in just a second. I would love to introduce two very special people. At least I think they're really special. Um, Juan Mancias and Christa Mancias-Zapata, who are with, I'm going to try to say it right, Esto'k Gna. Um, and they are also known by their colonized name as the Carrizo Comecrudo Tribe of Texas. You have probably heard of them and may not even know it was them, and you're going to realize it as you hear this presentation today. But these two, they work hard and their stories are important. So I'm really glad that you are here. Um, I am going to first introduce Juan, who is the tribal chair, and then Krista, who is the current tribal secretary, and also future and first chairwoman in over 100 years. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to the two of you.
Hi, how are you? I'm just greeting you in my language so you know that our language is here. And usually I just kind of let my daughter speak first because we're a matriarchal society. And I think I will do that because just let her share at this minute anything she wants to. She just got back from Minneapolis also.
Um, Dad, I know you want me to go first, but I think you need to go first. I'm still driving.
Okay,
I'm
all
trying
right.
to get home.
All right. Well, I can talk about all the research that we've done up, or until the present time, trying to get more testimonies from our own elders that are still alive and stories that they heard while they were growing up, as a sample of our continual governance, and it wasn't a governance that was set up like everybody believes the governance of this country was set up. Um, there was, very much of a uh, matriarchal influence in what was said, and it wasn't that we guys were lazy. We were just there for one thing, and that was to provide for the survival of the tribe, and of course, the matriarchal part of it is for the women to be in good health so they could, continue um, the promotion of the culture. They were not just the life bearers, but also maintained a lot of the ways of our people. So, and it's not saying that the men didn't, but the women were stronger in it because they knew when the children needed to eat, when they didn't weren't able to eat, when they were sick, and they knew when anybody was sick. So that's just the way things were. And I was born and raised in what we call the South Plains in Texas, which is up around the Amarillo Lubbock area. And if you know anything about that area, um, I suggest you go because it's actually one big mesa from the Belcones Escarpment all the way down to Fort Sumner, where it starts going down, and you can see the actual escarpment. It's called the Belcones escarpment, but it's actually a fault line. And with all the stuff that's been going on in the Permian Basin deposit fracking and the Barton uh, deposit fracking, and now of course it's happening in Eagle Ford Shell, but nobody's really paying attention at the Eagle Ford Shell. A smaller one, but everybody's paying attention to what's happening at the Permian Basin. And it's really become, because I remember growing up, it didn't have that much, um, what do you call it, discivility. um, and of course, we are a big part of the water systems throughout Texas, especially the rivers, because a lot of our villages, and then I guarantee you, with something that the archaeologists and anthropologists haven't done is if you go close to a river, you're going to find villages, and and that's what they're finding out now, which I don't really appreciate because they're digging up our rivers and destroying our waterways. And of course, for me, I think I have what I call a connection to what's going on, and what the rest of the colonized society doesn't have is an what I'm calling the relationship restoration. In other words, they don't see that they have a relationship with their own creation, much less with anything that's around us. Um, so the water becomes, a commodity, and the earth becomes a resource of commodities. And for us, those are sources of life. And I think that for a lot of things that are happening right now in the fossil fuel industry, that's adding to the climate perspective throughout, because I know that the quality of air to breathe here in San Antonio has been bad the last couple of days, and I know it's been really bad in Brownsville, and the problem with that is that they hadn't even started, you know, doing started up the LNG services that they're proposing all the time. So it's just one of those things that we have to recognize that is going on. But I want to bring you from where we are today to where we've been in the past, as a tribe, trying to maintain our identity and our sovereignty. And I think if you have an cumulative amount of individual sovereignty, you can add all that up to one sovereign nation, which we are and have been and were at, since first contact. Um, but now, with the energy transfer. They used to call them the energy transfer partners, but I think what's his name, kind of um, the guy from ETP, uh, kind of. God, can you remember the guy's name now? Kelsey Warren.
Kelsey Warren.
Yeah, Kelsey Warren. Um, what he did was he started investing money into the politics in Texas to change policy. And not only him, but so did Kinder Morgan. And of course, there were a slew of other ones that came in, especially in the Dallas area, Dallas Fort Worth area, and into Oklahoma, where there's a lot of money there. And of course, the ones in if you know anything about political history, we know that the Bushes come out of that oil that out of Odessa, Midland, Odessa, whatever you want to call it. Um, and now they've set up these pipelines that we're trying to go everywhere. Well, they're now looking at these data process centers that everybody is, I mean, we're not going to, I don't think we will be able to, anybody will be able to shut them all down. Some of them are going to go through anyway because of the present administration that we have, not only at the federal level, but also at the local levels that are very conservative and want to do, of course, make more money. And here and in local areas, we call it, of course, gentrification. And if you look at it globally, it's just terraforming the earth because it's happening not just here but everywhere. But our concern is, those lands that our people walked on, those sites that are sacred to us, and we have to be able to recognize that these places will always be and will always continue to be, special places for all of us. So I'm looking at what's happening with these data processing centers and what ETP is now proposing for a permit to the FERC, which is the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. and they want to go in and build almost a 500-mile interstate pipeline that goes from the Waha hub to the um, the pump station in shoot, one of Kinder Morgan's pump station in El Paso, and then go from there to along, I-10, and head in and then start turning up around up there somewhere in New Mexico, up into Arizona, where they want to set up a data process center. Now, the problem with it is that we're talking about water consumption. Then I don't think when they're fighting gentrification at a local level, even look at those things. Like it's happening in Brownsville, and I started bringing it up because water consumption is really outrageous because now we've got an LNG there, and actually two now that they want to be another one wants to be built, and it's some of it, and they got it 1,000 feet into our one of our sacred sites, which is called Garcia Pasture, which is a historical site, federal registered site, and also the Texas LNG, Rio Grande LNG, and Texas LNG. And now Enbridge is been contracted by them to, help with the Rio Bravo pipeline. So we've got these two pipelines that we're trying to kind of keep in place or delay them long enough so that we can come with a better decision. Now, yes, we're not federally recognized, and I don't care if about who recognizes me. My grandma, my grandpa recognized who I was. They told me who I was. So that's important to me. And I think that we need to, and I look like them and I walk like them. And I grew up like they did in many cases. I grew up working in the cotton fields of Plainview, Texas, and in the sorghum fields of, working for Pioneer. Um, which was a sorghum place so that people can have well-fed cows so that you can eat. And but nobody says anything about the parquat that was being put into the plants that we had to work in, and the airplanes that would fly over us and put their poison on top of us while we were still working. And I would work 10 hours a day, and I started at the age of 5. And so I have this common connection to the ground, to the earth, and understanding the the medicines that my grandfather used even up there in the north because he knew about them. My grandfather was a cowboy at the King's Ranch and several other large ranches along that area. And he would move cattle all the way from King's Ranch to El Paso and even to Abilene, Texas. And so he knew all the trails. That's why they hired my grandfather. Now, what you know of the cowboys was actually the Carrizo Comecrudo people who were working in the ranches and became some of the best horsemen ever. And I even have a corrido or a ballad to my dad, watching him do his first mangueada, which is when they rope the calf, two men, one on the ground, the other one on the horse, and I saw my dad, stop a horse on a dime to get that other calf. So I grew up, in the rural areas. I've earned my badges of working in the fields, earned my badges of, falling off horses. My we rode bulls because we come from Plainview, Texas, and it's the hometown of Jimmy Dean. Sausage, that's where it started. My brother used to work for Jimmy Dean when he first was first started. So we know the problems with contamination, and I started looking at it when I was in high school, how badly the water was being contaminated by, the sewage from the stockyards because there was a big stockyard called Missouri Beef Packers, where I worked for 2 weeks there, and I saw the mess that they were putting into the water, contaminating water. And then I started looking at all the other contamination that was coming from our own sewers and where that water was going. And now they're talking about desal plants in Brownsville, desal plants in Corpus Christi. And we have to start taking a stand because sooner or later, everybody's going to get one of those. So I think it's important that we start looking at how we ourselves are part of it. Are we part of the contamination, or are we really trying to look for solutions? Now, I'm not saying that I have the solution, but I think together we can come up with a better way of understanding a solution. And that's why I tell people, I don't care if you don't like me. I don't care if you don't like me at all. I said, I don't have to, I don't have to like you, but there's a bigger problem right now, and that's the future generations. And that's what this tribe's been about for the longest time, even when I was young. It was all about the future generations that we knew and maintained our identities. And I think that that's one of the things that was instilled in our, in, to our, to us through our grandparents, those of us were fortunate enough to live with them. I'm one of the youngest of the grandchildren of my grandparents on my dad's side, and that's who we were raised around. Um, I mean, my grandfather was born in 1893, and I'm sorry, 1883, sorry. Uh, and um, and he was born in what is now considered Peñitas, Texas, but it used to be called Reynosa. And um, and and um, And of course, my grandma was born in Camargo Viejo, which is now what you consider Rio Grande City. So you can see how they changed the name just to start making us get lost in the history of the books, how they try to erase us, and they continue to erase us now by banning anything that we do, by attacking us and finding ways to make us look badly. But we're going to continue to fight because we've always fought. We're not the savages. We're not the merciless savages that the Constitution talks about. We are the human beings of this area. Esto'k Gna means the human beings. And that's important to understand because all along the rivers, you'll find the humanos, which also means, in Spanish, means human beings. They had already started to lose their language. We never lost ours. Ours was recorded in 1886, 3 years after my grandfather was born. So, and there are still words of the Carrizo that are so-called call in the so-called oppressive language of Spanish, and because it is an oppressive language to us, they would come and take our children at a young age, and then take them to Mexico City, teach them Spanish, teach them Nahua, which is the language of the people there, and also make them into these devoted Catholics, and then they would bring them back over here as interpreters. And of course, a lot of us would listen to them, but we would hear them. We would not listen to them. Um, they would have their say because they had the blood of our people. And so a lot of times, that's the same thing kind of concept that we have today. So we become, are we? And I had to tell some of my relatives too. Are you implicit and complicit in what's happening with this ongoing genocide that we have? And people don't want to believe there's an ongoing genocide, but when you start destroying the things that we have a relationship with, like the animals, the birds, the fish, and you start contaminating the water, which is a big relationship of ours. And of course, the reason being is because we're all like 70% water. And when we die, that water is evaporated into the atmosphere. It doesn't go into outer space. It comes down as rainfall. It cleanses us. It gives us. It quenches our thirst. These are the important things to know that the water is a living thing, just as the land's a living thing. because we're having to fight these pipelines, and now here we got another one with ETP. And they're the same people that had the problems up in Standing Rock, um, the Energy Transfer Partners and Kelsey Warren and his goons that came up there. Now, people don't understand that a lot of the people, like the ICE agents, and if you look at if you do an investigative report on them, you'll find out that some of them were working for these guys for what they call Tiger Swan. And so they also trained a lot of the Border Patrol agents at one time back in when what's his name? Crazy man that's in the office now. The guy that doesn't know what he's talking about. What's his name? The liar. Oh yeah, lumper. I mean Trump. And I have a new word for people who lie. I call them lumping or lumpers because it has a tendency that with every day there's a lie and everybody believes it, and we have to, and everybody has to go out and investigate it. It's like he wants to have that notoriety, the narcissistic notoriety to it. And this is what's happening here too with people like Kelsey Warren. I had to call Kelsey Warren out at the Texas Parks and Wildlife because he was one of the commissioners for the Texas Parks and Wildlife. And guess what? You know how many people on the commissioners board is there are on the Texas Parks and Wildlife? All of them are all oil people, and they're taking land, buying it because they see an access through it because it becomes a state park, and they don't have to ask for too much permission, just the permission and a permit from the Texas Railroad Commission. Um, and that's one of the craziest parts of all of this. People don't recognize what's happening, and that's what's happening with what they're calling the desert. Is it the Desert West pipeline? Um, and there's no water in the desert, and they're going to use a lot more consume more water because they've used it all up for the fracking, and they've put a lot of disposal wells in there, and they're using zombie wells on top of that. I mean, ETP and Kinder Morgan are notorious for this. This is why they're making so much money, is because they're not having to put up the pipes on this expansion that goes all the way to Arizona. They're making only 5 requests. One of them is to go from a 42-inch pipe to a 48-inch pipe line that goes all the way to Arizona. So just imagine how much damage is being done to the earth, and the damage that occurs to wherever that water filters into whatever aquifer. And of course, here in Wilson County, we've been fighting a data processing center, and right now we got it halted. Um, and in Brownsville is another data processing center, which is called Project Alpha. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up. It's actually um, a place where they want to set up militaristic drones. So guess what? Guess what? Guess whose idea that is? The same guy who is setting up satellites in space that are going to be used for the military, and that's why he's making all the money. And on top of that, he was asking for another tax abatement, and so was Texas LNG. We won at one of the school districts on one of those, and held them out. The other problem is that we don't see that the investors, like the ones in Japan, are just as much to blame for what is happening here. We're actually still being invaded by other foreign countries, and our people, the original people of the lands, are being treated very disrespectfully and without regard. So tribal erasure continues, and if you support that kind of mentality, you support the genocide that is ongoing here. And it's through the fossil fuel industry, through the corporations, and now through this technological use of the data process AIs. I'm not saying that we're going to stop everything, but we can stop some major parts of this. We've been able to put a halt for a while, Saguaro Pipeline, which is also down there in Hudspeth County around Sierra Blanca. And and we're fighting against the, the what is it called, the Big Bend Ranch acquisition of land to build the wall, and financed mostly by the state, which is, again, it's our taxes. And instead of those taxes going to healthcare or to anything else where they would be important because of the kind of climate they're putting out there, um, that becomes a problem. Last year we were looking at the whole idea of, and within 5-day period, there were 5 small earthquakes up around Pecos County, and at the same time, that's when the flooding started in Kerrville. The soil liquefaction is not just due to rainfall. It's not just due to to any kind of water. It's also due to the leakage of those places that are leaking oil, or even some of the liquefied gas that they're putting through those pipes. Um, and it's starting to happen again. I mean, we had 6 inches of rain here the other day, and it was getting pretty interesting. And I was watching everything real close. I think that some of the things you should be able to be aware of, so that you in Houston can have your heating and have your gas, because it's all going up. And the reason it's all going up is because of the expansions that these guys are promoting. And none of that stuff sometimes it will be used. Now, they're using the data process to just say, yes, look, we're setting up this data processing through the Office of Defense and the Department of Defense, and that's the same thing they're doing with the border wall. They've taken funding from everything else, even from education, and put it into these militaristic mentalities because they want to completely take over and become the, you know, who who says and what. It's all about drill, baby, drill. And I mean, we were told very precisely that that was going to happen. Nobody wants to listen. That's your prerogative. But again, it's your future generations, your legacies that are all going to be, under scrutiny later, because we for 500 years have been trying to say your science does not work here. You're not doing the right geology, and you're not listening, to the earth, and you have to listen to it because it is talking to us. And I just recently decided to start looking at the seismic um, activity in the Eagle Ford shell deposits that are down in between here and the Rio Grande, that goes all the way up to around up and around Maverick County. And they're already proposing one pipeline to go through there. And we've been able to delay it for a while because we're demanding, the Form 16s and all and EISs, and they're going against the NEPA uh, policy. But they don't care. That's the problem. They don't care. They don't care because just like they didn't care that they were killing us to steal the land away from us, they don't care about who dies so they can make more money. Because in the long run, they're going to be still alive and still have the money, and the rest of us are going to be struggling and probably dying from not being able to have good health care. And they all hide away behind the thing. Well, we're creating good jobs. Well, you know, what is a good job when those people that are working those jobs are the ones that are out there getting the oil all over them, and are being actually closer to becoming cancerous than anybody else. I don't I It just doesn't make any sense because the job market is just another way of having a bunch of indentured servants, and that's what's happening to everybody in the urban areas. And I know I said the other day that Houston is ugly, and it is, because it used to be paradise before they started gentrifying it or terraforming it. And it's sad because they had to come up with policies and laws to accommodate those people that were making the money, and it's still that way. Um, if they ever have to build another baseball station or baseball stadium or football stadium there, guess who's going to pay for it? It surely isn't going to be the owners. And when you go to one of those Astro games, it's just slewed with billboards of fossil fuel industries. Um, but the thing is that until you recognize that there's something wrong, you'll always think that everything's okay. And you're not doing the proper investigation, you're not doing the proper research. And that's why we're always being, you know, told that we're wrong in what we're doing because we're associating with Greenpeace and we're associating with with Jane Fonda, who just made the movie or the documentary called Gaslit, and she tells really what's happening at these fracking sites and also at your sites where the gas is leaking out anyway, even though everything is turned off. They use the FLIR camera to be able to get that, and we've seen it. I've seen it with people like Total Energies, who's putting a lot of money into the pipelines that are in South Texas, around this, especially around the Eagle Ford Shale, and how they have put they have like almost 51% or more in controlling interest of investitures into the Rio Grande that the Rio Grande LNG and also in the Texas LNG and these guys have the audacity to ask for tax abatements. And in the long run, after they run out of, or they don't need gas anymore or oil, guess what's going to happen? Yeah. And we're fighting another refinery that they want to build up right next to, you know, the other crazy fool that's down there, Elon Musk, and that's why I can't stand SpaceX because he doesn't care. He doesn't talk to us. He won't talk to us. I got CBP to at least sit down and start sending us reports of what they were doing along the way, and to let us get in there and monitor some of their construction before they built the wall. And but these guys aren't going to do that because they're privateers and they're ready to invade anything. They're going to invade the moon. First is let's invade Mars, let's occupy Mars, and any life form out there better watch out. That was straight out of his mouth. And this is what they said. This happened here 500 years ago, and look where we're at because they brought their so-called science in here that it's not proven. Um, and that's why you have, the problems with explosions and all that because they haven't really worked on why these things happen. Now, if they were more controlled and they were truly clean, then I would say, yeah, I'm with you. Maybe, maybe I would do, but they're not. They're lying through their teeth. False advertisement is really bad. I'm writing a book now. It's called "The Economies Before 1491." In other words, what we're doing today is not something we did in 1491, and we were better off for it. And I mean, I keep telling people we had clean water, clean land, and clean air. What do we have now? That's because of the science that we all promote and promulgate and hold on to and support in many cases. Instead of really questioning, the people that are in political office. And see, I never say that they're in power because they have no power. That's what they're trying to protect, is the control that they have over the rest of us. And they control it because they don't have any connection. And as long as they're not connected to everything around them, they'll destroy it. And that's why they destroy the historical sites in Houston. First of all, they destroyed the land, took out a lot of the plants that we all needed. And this is happening with all the investors. They don't care, especially they're not from here. And you've got to remember that A lot of the Euro-Anglo politicians are not from here. They're immigrants themselves, and we as Native people just had bad immigration laws. We should have built a wall a long time ago to keep them out. Um, but that's just a little joke there. But I think that we need to understand that it's time to and you know what? And those signs that go up and say that no one is illegal on stolen lands. Well, the people who stole the lands are illegal here, and they stole them, and that's what the matanzas, the massacres that occurred all the way from Louisiana along the coast. I mean, they killed people so they could take over their lands, and then they killed those people so they could get bigger lands. And that's the typical mannerisms of what happened in prehistory in Europe. That's why they went into the Dark Ages. And if you don't believe me, look it up. I've done the history. I've done the research. I'm a historian when it comes to this stuff. I am the expert on what's happening in Texas. When uh, Mirabeau Lamar wanted to get rid of all the Indians in Texas, he says either kill them or send them to Oklahoma or just change their names and give them Mexican names. And that's how they got rid of our native people. And that's why we have these Spanish names. That's why some of us speak this oppressive language called Spanish, and this oppressive language that you call English, that is supposed to be the national language of the America, of the United States of America. I think that what we speak is it's not true English, and so we have to also have an interpreter when people are talking in English, not just in Spanish, because the language is double talk. And to me, the English language is based on a lot of hypocrisy and do you or promises or broken promises. And I think that that's what's been happening here for a long time, and we continue to promote that as this being the greatest country in the world, and it's not. I mean, it always burns my, even when Obama would say it, it would burn my into my core, and it when he would say, "God bless America." Well, what about the rest of the world? And that's why I kept saying the reason we have this so-called English that they speak, you know, is because they're generic. So we live in the United States of Generica. As long as you can take a little bit of that culture, a little bit of this culture, and a little bit of that culture, you're an American. But you don't see the fact that you're stealing and appropriating other people's cultures or other people's life ways, other people's lands, other people's way of life, because we have a connection to the earth. I don't, and that's one of the problems that for me exceeds the the ego and the fear of homeland insecurity. And look what they're doing. Look what they're doing to people, even the U.S. citizens. I mean, they've already, and the big thing about that is they killed two white Americans, and boy, everybody jumped all over that. But when they're killing all these people along the river, nobody says a word, and people have died. Babies have died. And that's why today, this coming month, on the 25th, I always celebrate, you know, Claudia Gomez Gonzalez's death, because they shot her in the back of the head by an ICE agent who got away with it, saying that she was armed. She was running away from the guy. She was not armed. She was 20 years old, and he shot her in the back of the head. This kind of mentality is never questioned. Nobody wants to investigate that, and that's what pisses me off. I'm sorry. This is what makes me angry, and I don't want to live in anger. I want to make sure my anger is constructive and diplomatic in the sense. And it's really hard to do that because when people don't even look at what's happening on the daily lives, and that we have to go in and ask permission for all this kind of stuff, I'd rather, I'm not a criminal, but look, you got a criminal in office. You got criminals in Austin. You got criminals that are even in Houston running the governments, and people let them, and people allow it. People won't question it. Why? I want to know why. Because if it was us, I mean, they take, our African American brothers and sisters, and they shoot them, they beat them up, they do the same thing to our people. They steal our women. They're still stealing our women. They're still breaking up families. They're still putting little babies and little children in jail. How many of you been to Delhi where they had the young 5-year-old boy in there, with his dad? They were trying to break the family because if you can break the child away from the parents, they no longer have a connection to that culture anymore. That's what the dadgum Spanish and Mexicans did to us, when they took our children away, and that's hard. I mean, it's hard to watch them do that to children today. And a lot of those children are just from across the border. And that river, the Rio Grande, it didn't know that it was a border. It doesn't know that it's a border. It just flows just like every day. But everybody is controlled by that segmentation and compartmentalization that occurs. And that's why we have the pipeline problem. That's why we have the LNG problem. That's why we have SpaceX problem. And I think it's, if you ever been to SpaceX, you should go. We are not just on the front lines as native people, as the original people of these lands of Texas. We are the front lines, not only with the colonizer, but also those that have been colonized by the colonizer, those that are the house slaves, because we're not the field slaves. We're the runaways. We want our freedom. We want to be able to run free in the lands that our ancestors ran in, but we're not allowed to because they continue to hold us back. And I think it's a travesty and it's a sin, for those who don't talk about this thing and don't say anything about it when they change the names of our people. Like there was an Arankawa chief that came from the Louisiana area, and before they became part of all the area there in the coast, along with us, they called him uh, Jose, and his name was Jose Miguel. And when the Tennesseers came in, along with David Crockett and Sam Houston, they started calling him Hazy McGill. And I mean, they changed his name. They changed our names. They do whatever they want. They change the names of places just so they can own them. And there was a good evident portrayal of that genocidal tribal erasure when they tried to change the Gulf of Mexico. Well, even to me, we call it something else. Um, but they wanted to change it to the Gulf of America. I'm going like, does that fool know that all these countries that are here in the Western Hemisphere are the Americas? That's how ignorant the mentality that is occurring right now is. I don't care how many times you want to do Robert's Rule of Order, how many times you want to tell me that you're quoting the Hemis principles. We have our principles of this land, and that's important to know. The Hemis Pueblo, I mean, the Hemis principles were written by 18 organizations, and only 2 of them were Native people. And so I think that nobody does their research, and then they get upset with me because I tell them this is what really happened. But the only way you're going to find out is to be uncomfortable, because when you're uncomfortable, that's when you have a tendency to learn more about what's going on. And And for me, I think I don't want to be uncomfortable anymore, and I don't want my people to be uncomfortable anymore. I want them to feel good in their skins and who they are, and with our life ways, and not have to fight so many dead gum pipelines and fossil fuel industries just because they feel like they want more money, because they're not putting the money back into this country. They're putting it in their pockets and investing it somewhere else. And I mean, I can go a little further on this, but I don't know how much time I have. But if Krista wants to share this.
We're just kind of rolling over at this point, y'all. I don't want to. I told Juan he'd keep talking, and if anybody wanted to post any announcement or updates, if you want to put it in there, if that's all right with you, Pastor Deb, as well. And if you want a copy of the notes, please put your email address in there. We're not going to send them to you unless you do. And thank you so much for coming. Again, please see the link to the GoFundMe for the tribe. They are really trying to raise money because they need it to do all of the amazing things that you just heard that they work on. And we hear about some of them, but I even still get amazed to hear all of that stuff. So please
There's
look at
a,
the fundraiser. I'm sorry, Juan, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just want to mention that there is an event happening in the Rio Grande down in Lajitas. The resort in Lajitas is where Kelsey Warren bought the place. He bought is his resort, and they have a place. They're having a thing called uh, the voices from both sides. So they get together and they sing and they have a good time for a day down in Lajita. So you're welcome to. I'll share it here, and do you want to find out more? Jamie and Herman will have it. I'll send it to them.
Or Deb,
Or
too.
Deb, yeah, Deb,
Yeah,
yeah.
Deb. So I just wanted to, and we'll get right back to Juan and Krista. The other thing I wanted to say is, so that's one is the action to support, raise awareness about all the work they're doing. And what blows me away is that Juan takes us with us. You know, I know at least Juan does. I know he doesn't speak for everybody, but he always says across Texas, and we're not owed any of that. So I'm always grateful that you come and you share your life ways and your knowledge and your experience with us, Juan. So please share that out. Also, we want to follow up in an action. It seems that people are super able to organize bus rides to the Capitol, which I think is really important. Let's organize a solidarity bus ride down there to Brownsville. Let's go see them. Juan would like to have a community yard sale. We can bring stuff, have a huge community yard sale to raise funds for the tribe, and then plan an action and let Juan talk more about that if he want to. Um, thank you so much, everybody, for coming, and y'all, please feel free. Go ahead, Juan or
Mm.
Krista. I'm
Oh,
turning it back over to you.
I'll just turn over to Kristen.
Hello, everyone. Ito yung pala mood tapos nawazo pulpit. Greetings, everyone, relatives and blood relatives. Um, yeah, so the continuing on with the things that my father has talked about. The one thing that we do, how we do operate, is with facts, and I think historically, the erasure of the indigenous presence, or I don't want to say indigenous presence, of the autochthonous presence, especially in the state of Texas, in the education system, has been erased slowly, and now to almost bare like non-existent. Um, when my kids go to school, it's like every 2 years I'm visiting a history teacher and having to talk to them and telling, with the principal to tell them that you can't tell my child that he doesn't exist. And I provide a paper of facts and historical significance of our presence in the state of Texas, references, and a lot of historical stuff from the Texas Historic, which is TARO, which is Texas Archaeological Research Lab in UT Austin. And tell them that you can't tell my son that he doesn't exist, or my child that they don't exist, because apparently I'm right here's the proof that we do exist, and we have a significance presence still in the state of Texas. So that's always been a battle for, I guess I'm not just for us, but for a lot of people who have grown up with these ways, especially like my father and myself and some of my family members, trying to find an identity, or maintain the identity, not find it, just to maintain the identity of being Esto'k Gna, because I don't, because the people I know, where I grew up in Lubbock, Texas, straight out of the Bible Belt, um, the the people who looked like me um, always wanted to oppress me, to make me see like, oh, you're Latino or you're Hispanic, or your parents, they speak Spanish, but that's not who I was. That's not how I was raised. I was raised with an identity and a culture and a language, and a lifeway teachings that were passed down from generation to generation. The stories that were passed down from my grandmothers and my grandfathers and my aunts and uncles and cousins, that kind of knowledge is always historical, because I grew up with a different education, not just from this public school system, but an education of knowledge of thousands of years of historical presence on this land. And so it was always a fight for me growing up, and a struggle, just because my parents could speak some oppressive languages, and I could speak English, which is another oppressive language. Didn't change who I was, because I knew my language and I know other relatives' languages, and I can share those. But those people, those who don't know those languages, don't have that privilege or understanding that I'm actually speaking the language that is from this land, the natural languages of this land. And when I want to talk to my ancestors and the creator, when I speak my language, they can hear me, because I'm speaking the language of this land. And um and a lot, when my dad was talking about being matriarchal, that comes from the teachings that the women are the not just the life barriers or life givers, that we are also the ones that hold the identity of the people, the language, the lifeway ceremonies, and those teachings, that we're the ones, the keepers of those that identity, and that we continue to maintain that through our children and the future generations to come. So for me, growing up was not as hard, but it was, I can say that that through the knowledge that was passed down from my great grandparents to my parents, that I could honestly say that I was the first generation that didn't have to work in the fields, like my parents and my great grandparents did, just to survive. I didn't have to work on a plantation or a ranch to support my family. Um, that I am the first generation that has continued to maintain this identity and be able to show people that who we are is the as the original peoples of Texas. So I like to talk about like our continuations of our Lifeway teachings. Then you know, my dad had there's a YouTube video out that one of our friends did a couple years back. Her name's Carolina Carrizo. She is a artist, and she had done this little short documentary about the teaching of the hands. And the way we do our Lifeway ceremonies and teachings is through this calendar that it's within ourselves, that is on our hands and is in our body. Um, so like we have days, we celebrate our teachings and our ceremonies on the winter solstice and summer solstice, on the spring equinox and the fall equinox, and in between there we have quarter markers the quarter markers in between those that we dance, or that we send our voices up. In our language, we don't have a word for prayer. We just say we send our voices up, and I think that kind of knowledge is that we live our life by these teachings, and these teachings that keep us humble and keep us that understand that the calendar is with nature, and that we are just a part of that. And the other teaching of these things through the way that we are fighting extractive industry is the fact that nature has a right to live. Like the water has a right to flow and be clean and stay healthy, to provide for all living life. Like the earth has a right to breathe, to grow and be green and stay clean, to provide for the living, and that the air should be clean so we could breathe, that life can breathe it in, and it should be able to live. And I think that's the connections that a lot of what that we don't get, and that we try to teach our children, that not only do we have the right to clean water, to clean air, to clean land, so does the little insects or the bees that are buzzing around to pollinate the flowers and the grass and the trees, that they have the right to clean water, to clean air, so we can continue a life cycle as they continue a life cycle. And one of our projects that we have started right now, here on the land, on our property, is beekeeping. And we've done this is the first year that we've done beekeeping, which is awesome. It's been amazing. We've got to pull honey 3 times this past year. Getting into the first honey, which is through wildflowers, which is great. And maintaining the bees, but also teaching the kids that cycle and what it looks like to be near a beehive and how to be safe around bees. It's not about being afraid of them. It's about actually seeing um, they live, and how they are just as important as we are, and how they're important just to spread that life of the flowers and the trees when they pollinate during the springtime, and how we have to keep them safe during the winter time, because Texas doesn't get cold, but for bees, anything below 50 is cold, and they would need how you take care of them and how you have to feed them during the winter time. So, I think that, like, we take care of them. That's our teaching. We take care of them. They take care of us. Monaco. Yeah, and so yeah, that's just one project we've been doing here, along with trying to just restore some knowledge into those who want to come around, who want to be here. And of course, everybody knows when bees make honey, that honey has such healing medical, how would you say, like, uh, things in it that can restore and take care of you, protect you, keep you, bring your immunities up, make you immune to allergies or whatever that's around you in your area. So, um, that's one of those things and teachings that we're doing right now, as you know, as well as our dances that come through the spring and fall equinoxes and the summer and winter solstice. Um, as part of our fight, and we never let those go. Those are a part of us. Those life wave teachings make us who we are, make us different um from what was not what makes us different from those who don't believe in being a human being. That keeps us our makes us humble to know that we have to give a little bit of ourselves back to Creator, back to Mother Earth, so are we can be thankful for the things that they provide. Um, but where we live right now, it's this area has been had poor quality air. We live between, yes, we live in a rural area. We don't live in the city. We live outside the city. But where we live in between two coal plants and a frack, and which are north of us, and then the south of us, we live between a fracking yards, which is the Eagle Ford Shell. And right now, I drove through Kennedy last week, and you could see that there was a flare right across the street from the hospital where my daughter used to work at. So I mean, those things are really, it's really awful to see that. And the air quality here for the past couple of days have been really bad. That I have to stay inside most of the day and only go out for a few hours because I can't. I'm not used to that. I'm not used to the air being so bad because it's been so humid and so cloudy, which traps everything in, and you can't breathe, or you don't feel like doing anything. And that's not normal. We shouldn't have to feel like we have to be trapped inside our homes. I know y'all living in Houston, and when I go visit there, it's hard for me to even be there too. I can only be outside for so long, and I have to go stay in the room or hotel or wherever because it's hard for me to breathe, and I'm not used to that. So it's when I used to only have seasonal allergies, and now I can't even have allergies every day, all day, every year, 365 days a year. It's kind of crazy. And I see those changes in my own body and in my children. And when my son didn't have asthma before, now he's 18 and has asthma. That's that's a that's a bit severe change. He was born here. He was born and raised here on this same land. We haven't been anywhere. But when he was born, he was fine. He didn't have asthma, no signs of any problem. And now, 18 years old, 18 years later, now he's got asthma because of the air quality has changed from these two coal plants and the fracking yards of the Eagle Ford Shale. That tells you something. That's when my dad said earlier, when the science is wrong, that's how you know the science is wrong. There's something wrong that's in the system that they have built. And if now our children are suffering, not just only us, but the children. And I worry about my grandchildren. I have my grandmother, and I worry about my granddaughter and my next granddaughter that's coming next month. So it really is the reason why we fight. Is the reason why we fight because there's areas like Corpus Christi that are running out of water, but they want to put 60 data centers in the state of Texas, and we can't allow that to happen. We can't allow that people to go without clean water. We can't allow, just because we're getting rain doesn't mean that they can take it away and keep taking it from us. We need that water to replenish our lives, to replenish the earth, to continue to come back. We've been in the drought for what, 3-4 years now, and now we're getting this rain, and now they're talking about, oh, we're going to take more. No, we can't allow those things to happen. We can't allow them to take that water away from us, because then what are we leaving our children? What is the next generation going to have? What are they going to be left with? We don't need to go to any other planet to conquer like Elon Musk wants to. We need to take care of this one. This is our planet. This is where we're from. This is our home. This is where Creator put all of us here. And we didn't talk about that. But I that, but I thank y'all for listening, and um hope to see all of y'all soon.
Thank you, Krista. I thank you both so much. I'm just searching for the fundraiser so I can put it back on there, make it closer again, and ask if you're able to contribute, please do. If you're with an org and want to send it over to them and see if they can, or you want to contribute with them in other ways, please do. Please share this among your network and tell people about them and all the work that they're doing, and we all benefit. So there's no reason they should struggle ever, but they definitely shouldn't struggle for this work that's no fault of their own. So let's hold them up, let's support them, and we're going to be reaching out about doing a solidarity ride down there, do a big community yard sale for them, and then take a community action together. So thank you all so much for coming. Thank you again, Juan and Krista. Shout out to Eddie also on here. Family there, extended families of the tribe. So
My
all right,
sister
everybody.
Melissa.
All right, y'all. If you want to, what we normally do on the way out, and I really enjoy it, and since you're here, I'm gonna do it. It's tradition to leave with one word of how we feel leaving this call. So I'm gonna say mine, pick the next person, and then y'all can just pick each other. Um, I am humbled. Krista, I'll go for you.
Um,
You broke up.
appreciate it.
You didn't break up. I interrupted you. Please repeat it.
No, you're fine. Appreciated.
Awesome. Well, do you want to call on Juan? You want to go next? You're on mute, Juan. Trying to find that darn button, aren't you? There's certain things in life that are
Okay.
just
Okay.
silly.
Okay. I'm going to say for all the flowers y'all talked about at the beginning that you liked, you still need the bees.
Absolutely. So I tell people I don't get like non-poisoned food just for my own body. It's like it's not about me, it's about the bees. Like I'm so much smaller than the bees. So, next person, Juan, what was your one word of how you feel leaving the call?
Pollinated.
Pollinated. Nice. How about Zed? It's good to see you, Zed.
Yes, me too. I'm very thankful to be here.
Awesome. Melissa?
Um,
Melissa, you're on mute. Okay, when we go to L,
I'm so sorry. I just my mute button, I couldn't find it.
no, you're fine.
But yes, I'm very thankful. Thankful for the knowledge that comes out and everyone speaks of. It's great.
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say also thankful, and I didn't know if I remember you said at the beginning like not to mention it, so I didn't want to interrupt anyone, but I was so thankful for everything that Juan and Krista had to say. I'm just like blown away by all the information. I was like jotting it down And just want to say I'm so appreciative of that. And also have a lot of input too, just in agreement with everything because I study data centers as well. So I can also share some of those facts too, like at the end. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad you had a chance to join us. Dr. Scott. Dr. Scott. Every
I'm
time.
just, I'm just so inspired by everything I heard tonight. I'm so inspired. It was wonderful,
Thank you. It's always
and thank
wonderful
you.
to see you. Matthew.
Grateful and reflective.
Very nice. And last, but she will never be least, Deb.
Oh, thank you, Jamie. I'm blessed, and thank you all for being here tonight, and Jamie for your leadership.
Thank you all for your leadership. This is an amazing group. I always feel I'm humbled by the work that I hear, and I'm always humbled to be in the presence of people I'm in because I definitely got the imposter thing big time, which I think is probably good because it probably keeps me humble. But all right, everybody, have a wonderful night. Thanks for staying with us. Don't forget
Good
to hang up.
night.
Good
Good
night, Krista.
night.
Don't forget to
Good
hang up your
night.
capes. Don't let them get wrinkled. All right.
Good night, y'all.
Good
Good
night.
night, everyone.
Good night, Zed. Good night.